What is up, YouTube? It is Docky or Docky Style Gaming, and I am back at it again with another Outriders video for you all today, where I'm going to be talking about the potential for Outriders. Now, I've said this before that Outriders is probably one of the few games I've been the most hyped I've ever been for a looter shooter in a very long time, but that's really because of the potential this game has. Now, when I say potential, I mean it in both the negative and the positive ways, because even though this game has the potential to be what a lot of people in the looter shooter genre have been waiting for, looking for a while, it also has the potential to kind of kill the looter shooter genre. Now, I've said this before in a lot of my streams actually, but when it comes to the looter shooter genre, I feel like there's a couple standout games that kind of are pivotal points in the genre. Games like Borderlands being the godfather of the genre. Not saying it's the originator, but it's pretty much the formula that most looter shooters followed after. I feel like Destiny perfected the genre. Now, not saying the game's a perfect game, calm down, but it's what every game has now tried to mimic. Destiny 2 monetized the hell out of the genre, Warframe showed that you can do the genre in free-to-play, and Anthem sadly scared everybody away from the genre. So now there's this space where it feels like there needs to be some type of game that can save the genre. Though yes, there are still a lot of looter shooters out there, or RPG-like games that are doing relatively well, but now when we think of looter shooters, or whenever people even say the term looter shooters, it's always accompanied by an eye roll, or some type of sigh, as in, oh great, it's another one of these. So when I talk about the potential for Outriders, I mean that there's potential for this game to be very good if everything that they're showing and saying is in fact going to be at the game at launch. But there's also a lot of potential for this game to completely just turn everybody away from the looter shooter genre, and the next time another game company says there's going to be another looter coming out, people are just not even going to bother with it. So that's what I mean about the potential for Outriders being both good and bad. But that's why in this video I am going to get into some of the reasons why I'm a bit more optimistic that the potential for Outriders will in fact be a good thing if in fact the devs do stick to everything that has been shown and that they have been saying when this game officially launches. Now, first things first, like I always say with a lot of things, it's best to temper your expectations when it comes to a looter shooter. Not saying that there can't be great looter shooters, but 9 times out of 10 every looter shooter follows the exact same premise. Each game has their own set of characters, whether it's Destiny with the Guardians, Warframe with the Tenno, Anthem with the Freelancers, Borderlands with the Vault Hunters, or Godfall with the Valorians, or in Outriders' case, the Altered. And the story plot is essentially the same all around too. It's essentially you're the only or the last few of your kind that must stop the big bad from taking over, enslaving, destroying the world or solar system, whatever it is, whether it's Oryx, Handsome Jack, the Monitor, Macros, etc. That's pretty much the plot of every looter shooter. And though some people are like, the story matters, not really. The point of the story for a looter shooter is to just establish some of the creatures and things in the world that you'll be encountering and killing for the most part. Most people play the looter shooters to farm for loot and better gear. We all know this, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but if you're expecting the craziest, most advanced story ever, then temper your expectations. Now, that being said though, with some of the stuff that we've been seeing with Outriders, it looks like they're going in the opposite direction. Now, it still does seem very cookie cutter by the numbers when it comes to the story, but a 40-hour story mode is what we are being promised. And if that's the case, that is probably the largest story mode that we've got in any recent looter shooters to date. And again, if what the developers are saying is in fact true, this is always a good thing, because this is just content that we'll play before we even get into the official grind. The thing that's going to make you want to come back and play a looter shooter consistently. But again though, if you are expecting some crazy out of there story mode, I don't think it's still going to be that. Like I said, most looter shooters are very similar in their structures, whether it's the character types, the main motivation of the villains, or just the plot of the overall story. So again, I know what to expect when I go into Outriders, and that's why I say some people might want to temper their expectations. But outside of the 40+ hour campaign, we were also told that there will be multiple side missions that will also be replayable, and the rewards will scale up as well. well, which is always a nice thing for farming loot and going back and replaying them in case you find some weapons that you want, but at a higher level when you actually decide to level up your character. Now we also have bounty hunts, which we kind of have the least amount of info on that they said is going to be in the game, but they're supposed to be activated by finding these wanted posters around the world in the game. Then we have monster hunts that was also talked about, which look fantastic, actually surprisingly good. Not your basic generic monster hunter fight, they seem a little more in depth with a looter shooter element added to it, which I kind of prefer and dig a lot in some of the gameplay that we've got to see. And monster hunts will apparently give you special and unique rewards as well as special monster hunt trophies as well. Now on top of some of the other activities that you could do in the game before we get into the true end game, they did say that we'll have, which we've seen in the demo if you've been playing it, that you have your skill tree to level up, which is pretty expansive. It's a bit of Borderlands-esque in terms of the different stats and trees that you kind of pick your slots for, but that's honestly not a bad thing. Now your world tier is also something you kind of have to grind for as well, which I kind of like that concept. It's almost like grinding for your difficulty, but every time you unlock or level up your world tier up to 15 is the max, you increase your loot drop rates, increase enemy levels, increase your gear level caps, and also unlock special rewards each time you go to a new world tier. Now outside of that and some of the smaller things like accolades, the big in-game grind seems like it's going to mostly be in your expeditions, which are only available after you beat the main game. They said that expeditions are going to be huge mechanic driven levels with unique storylines and gear that also has all new content that won't be any recycled missions from the base game, which to me is kind of a game changer. I mean, we know most looter shooters love to recycle everything, whether it's Destinies with their strikes, Nightfalls and things like that, or even recently with Godfall with their Dreamstones, and even kind of recycling some of their floors on their Towers of Trials. But again, that's something every looter does, so I'm not trying to call any out in particular, but it's pretty unique that for a change, it looks like Outriders is going to be doing something completely different and giving us all new content on top of what we kind of already have an abundance of to do, from our side missions, our bounty hunts, our monster hunts, and then of course the 40-hour campaign as well. They also said there's going to be a whole new hub, and essentially the harder the challenge, the better the rewards, and most of these expeditions are timed, so the faster you complete it, the better the rewards you'll get depending on your time. Now they did say that there's going to be some changes to how loot is dropped, whereas instead of dropping from enemies, they'll drop from these chests at the end, and even if you don't complete it in time, you'll still get loot, so every expedition run is still pretty rewarding. Now expeditions have 15 different ones, and similar to your world tiers, they will be leveled up and you'll unlock a new one every time you complete an expedition. Now even though I kind of tried to talk through that pretty fast, there's still a lot more to get into when it comes to expeditions, but for the most part, on top of that, with everything else that's going to be in the game, I feel like at launch, if again all of this is in fact in the game and is going to be functioning properly, this game does have the potential to have probably one of the best looter shooter launches in a very long time and keep and hold its player base. And I mean, if we're talking about player base, I mean even the demo currently is doing better than Avengers before the game even comes out. So I think Outriders has captured a lot of people's attention, but now it's time for the execution. When the game actually drops in about a week, will it be able to deliver everything it's promised, and will it be able to hold that player base, or will it be a Cyberpunk 2077 level bomb and become irrelevant in under a month? And it seems like I'm putting a lot of pressure on Outriders, which kind of is unfair, but as promising as this game's been and as deceptive as a lot of looter shooters have been, I think the looter shooter genre and community need a big win, and I'm hoping for one with Outriders. Again, this could be a huge step into restoring the faith of the genre, or it could be the thing that people just completely are turned off of the genre forever. Now, don't get me wrong, there's going to be fans of the genre, of course, but I feel like the looter shooter name, or just genre as a whole, is going to be lump sum in that category, where any developer, any game company come out and say, hey, we're making a looter shooter, it's going to be met with the, yeah, we're probably not going to touch that. So hopefully Outriders lives up to the hype. Again, I'm more hyped than I've been for a game in a really long time, though I'm trying to temper my expectations, so I'm not going as hard as I typically would be with any of these other games, because I'm hoping for the best, but still don't want to get my hopes up. Now there's still a whole lot more to get into about what could potentially make Outriders succeed, but I'm not going to do a whole hour-long video. So let me know what you are actually expecting to see from Outriders, what you you want to be in the game and what would make you consistently come back and play the game, because at the end of the day, that is the main focus of a looter shooter, is to get players to consistently come back to their game. So I'm kind of curious on what players are wanting to see, what they're hoping to see, and what they want to be in the game that would make you come back to play Outriders. Now for me, it always comes down to the loot. The grind is the most important part of the looter shooter. Farming for gear, mods, stats, anything to improve your build. Just have a lot to farm for and enough to farm for. I don't want to farm through everything in 2 days and be done with the game. I want there to be an abundance of it, and I want the roles to be unique enough to where I want to have a reason to keep farming for better gear, better stats, and better things like that. So that's what I always look for in a looter shooter. But again, let me know what y'all personally are looking for, or what y'all are hoping for in Outriders to be somewhat successful at launch. Again, I'm very optimistic, but staying relatively cautious. So that's all I really got for this video, guys. Thank you all for watching. Like always, be sure to leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you didn't. Links to all my social media accounts are in the video description, along with the link to the Discord, where we have LFGs for just about anything or any multiplayer game in there as well. So be sure to stop by the Discord if you haven't already. I will catch you all on the next one, guys. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the subs. Peace.